Yo, welcome to the No Limit Podcast, aka Marvin's Room. How you feeling, Dan?
I'm chilling, Ed. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to talk.
All right, we got 3 topics on the docket today. Podcast is going to be called Deep because we're going deep dive today.
That's all right.
Let's hear them.
So we're actually going to talk about, is time real? Which I'm really interested to get your opinion on that.
Right.
What happens after we die, and our own flaws. Like our
Yeah,
own
we're going to go
personal
on a
flaws
little
that we don't like.
monologue, talk about our own personal flaws, no limit, highs and lows. Got to endure the lows just as much as the highs. But let's get right into it. Is time real? Let's hear what any bull thinks.
Time is not real, I don't think. Because how could it, it was created by man. Like, it's a man-made concept at the end of the day. So we're basically living our lives by something that man created. Time is a real element, but the way we go about telling time and the way we talk about time, like I'll be at your house at 5 o'clock, like that's not actually real.
Yeah.
But time is real, if you know what I mean. Like there's been periods of time.
You know what I want to make a comment on about that? Something right now. Like the beginning of this podcast that just happened, I wasn't really fucking with it. So it felt like it was taking forever. But it probably took like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And we're going to sit here and talk for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's going to get real good. And I'm going to not even feel like we were here for 1 minute. But that 20 seconds of that intro was painstaking. But this 45 minutes is going to go by like that. And that's just how time works.
You're not wrong, Ed.
For
and
real.
the fact that you look like you just scored a triple-double in the NBA, it makes it even funnier. Because you really do look like you just dropped fucking 40, 16, and 10.
Yeah.
What is this look that you got going on, actually?
You know, it's just my fit for
We're
the
not
day.
going to not comment on it.
It's what I was feeling, you know. I'm wearing the sunglasses. I'm having a bad allergy day. My eyes look a little red, like puffy. Don't really want you guys seeing that. And I got this jacket from somebody. Haven't worn it yet. Been wearing this sweater often lately, so I put a little fit together, you know.
No limit.
No limit. I can
That's a
show
no
up
limit
wearing
fit.
anything. Next episode, I'll be in a wife beater.
But yeah, for time, I just think that it's a man-made concept. I don't think that's real. But then there's also the fact that we revolve around the sun, right? So if we revolve around the sun, that's Earth goes around the sun in a 24-hour time period.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we deemed it. We deemed 24 hours, you know what I mean? But the Earth does do a full round around the sun every day. So that has to count, for something. But I don't know if it's necessarily what we think is time. Like, how do you feel about time? I feel like I'm the only one talking about it.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I feel like the question is pretty vague, and we've had conversations about this before, and like, we'll get to it. But the question is kind of vague, and you gotta unwrap a lot. Like, a good quote that I hear about time, and you probably will hear different people say this quote differently, but it's all the same sentiment. It's like, what lasts longer? And it's the same exact thing that I just talked about with the intro versus the full-length podcast. What lasts longer? A second with a million events packed into that second, or an hour where nothing happens? What lasts longer? And normally people's answer is the second with a million events packed into it, and then the explanation given by the guy quoting it is that time is only something about the events that occur within it. Time is only defined by the events that occur within it.
Right, gotcha. Okay, so that's what I thought you were going to say. So if you have a shift, you go to work, you work a 9 to 5. If your job is fast paced and you're on your feet and you're moving, 9 to 5 feels like 9 to 10. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if you have a boring job where you're bored and you're sitting down, you're not mobile, that 9 to 5 feels like 20 hours.
Yeah.
Even though it might be packed with events, they just might be like, it's boring, so it takes, like, it feels like it's longer, even though it's packed with events. You got this meeting, you got to get this report to this person. It's packed with events, but it feels like it's 20 hours long.
Yeah. And you also got to take into account that, like, everything that is a measurement of time, like, we created that measurement. So if you lived to 70 years old, you're 70 years old, but if one little measurement was different throughout your life, if like the measurement of an hour was actually only 3/4 of the amount of time that we see an hour now, then you would die at a different age.
That's what trips me up about time the most, and probably most of you, is that everybody always tells you that life is so short. But I'm 24, you're about to be 24. Think about from age 1 to 24 how long that was.
Yeah, and you probably got to do that at least 2 more times.
At
maybe
least
3.
if you're lucky. If you live a full life,
yeah,
die of natural causes eventually, like you're lucky to maybe do that 24-year time period 3 more times. So think about how long your life has been up to this point, and now imagine doing that 3 more times. That seems like an eternity. Mm-hmm. But everyone's going to tell you life's too short. I think it's just because no one ever wants to, leave.
I think a big thing with people saying life's too short is that a lot of people get to their later years in life and then realize that like they got no more time to do what it is that they actually wanted to do. So it's like life's short.
I'll actually say that I think people say that when they didn't do anything with their life.
Yeah, exactly what I'm getting to.
Like if you just get a job at 18 and just work, you're gonna be like, man, life's too short because you didn't do nothing.
Like you said, 9 to 5. If you're doing something all day, that time goes by quick. And then just put it on a grander scale, that 20 years that you worked that job is gonna go quick. And then those people end up saying, well, life's too short because they never really went out and did what they wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's also
when you had all the time in the world to go do it, you just chose not to.
If you're not taking your time to do something that you want to do and you actually feel good about doing it, it's something like, what are you actually doing?
Yeah.
If you just work a mindless job just for money, how are you spending your time? Because if we only get one chance to live on Earth, if our 80-year time period is our time and you worked for somebody else and didn't enjoy it for 60 of those years, you didn't do anything, and then you feel like you wasted all that time. Wasting time's terrible because there's so many things that we do as society now, especially, that's just a waste of time. If you go back even 100 years ago, say the turn of the century, 1900, life was just a lot more literal. You woke up and you had to make things happen. You had to go out and get food. You had to go out and get, this and that. Like now, like you can just have everything delivered to you. You waste time on your cell phone. Mm-hmm. You don't have to even leave your house. You can just sit around just wasting time playing video games, watching TV. They didn't have that 100 years ago.
There was a point in my life where wasting time literally was like, it would literally hurt me inside to waste time.
Yeah.
Like I was doing so much, and this would be the example of like when it would bother me. I had a job and I had school full time, and then also like personal hobbies that I wanted to do. So there was literally usually every day from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, I was actually doing something that was like productive. And an example would be when I would go to class, and then let's say I had a class at 1, and then I had another class at like 4:30, and the class at 1 ended at 2:30. Those 2 hours from 2:30 to 4:30 would just kill me. I would hate to sit there for 2 hours and do nothing and feel like that I'm not doing anything for 2 hours.
That's the afternoon. That's 2 to 4.
Yeah.
Like that's busy time. You know what I mean?
Like if I didn't have this prior agreement at 4:30, I could start doing something else productive right now and do it for the rest of the day. But I have to sit here and wait until 4:30.
See, we also see that if we have that 2 to 4 hour break. If we have that 2 to 4 hour break, we also see that as like, oh, there's no time to do anything. But really there is. Do you think that's just like a fallback for like us being a little bit lazy? Like if I have a break if I have a class at 1 and my next class is at 3:50 or 3:45, if I have that time in between, I'll probably most days just tell myself, oh, there's not enough time to fucking do this or that.
Yeah. The way that I'm thinking of it though is like, you can't like go to your job and like do a shift in that 2 hours or something.
No.
Or you can't go.
But if you're working on like a passion project, say you make beats.
Yeah, but could you really do that though? I guess you could
work on a little bit.
Yeah, if you were making beats specifically, you could sit there on your laptop and do it. But if you needed to go to another location in order to accomplish what you needed to accomplish, in 2 hours you couldn't leave, go do that, come back, make it in time.
I guess what I'm saying is like something like if you have a passion project, like you make beats, like I like to draw. So like if I wanted to draw, I might tell myself that there's not enough time to get into a full drawing right now. Like I might not but even though that's basically me just saying like I really don't feel like doing it.
Yeah.
Like they're really I am then I'm gonna choose to waste that time by watching something on Netflix and actually waste the time doing nothing productive.
sidebar. Also, in my time in college, speaking of like trying to get something done between classes, I walked all the way to the Delaware River to take pictures for something, then walked all the way back to Temple. Imagine how tired I was. And I had a class at like 5:30, so I left.
Where was the building at that the class was at?
At Temple? In North Philly. I don't remember the exact building it was.
So like you had to walk
whatever
to
the
Delaware.
art school is. It was the furthest building. Yeah, the furthest building on the campus, actually.
You
No,
walked
it's
to
on
the
like
Delaware
13th
River.
and something.
So how long did the full
Walked
thing
to the
take you?
Delaware River and came back and had to make it to a class. So, and it was a hot day. So imagine how much I was sweating. Probably smelled terrible.
Probably smelled awful.
And I showed up to the class 10
School
minutes
bag
late
on
after running like 15 blocks. Like, because it got to the point it was like
ran?
it was like 4:15 and there was still like 15 blocks left. So I had to start running. Like I was gonna miss the entire class, and I think I had already missed too many.
Were you like Peter Parker chasing after the bus? Like
yeah, I was hustling.
School bag on.
There. Yup, school bag on. I should have just
like
put my
such a
arms
nerd.
behind me like weirdo kids and shit.
Like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
But yeah, wasting time sucks, and everybody wastes time. It's just a fact of life. I would like to not waste time as much as I do. Like, I play video games, and I just deem that as a complete waste of time, even though I just like to do it.
Yeah.
Like, playing Madden is just a waste of time.
No, honestly, I don't think that is anymore, though, just because you can make something productive out of playing video games.
If you choose to do that.
Like, you've talked about, like, streaming possibly.
Right. Like, if I start to stream, which I eventually want to do for the No Limit brand, if I start to stream, then I'm streaming for a purpose. I'm streaming to create content. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I'm just playing Madden at my house for 3 hours and not doing anything with
You're
it.
getting better at the game so that when you stream, you can trash people and people want to watch.
Yeah, I guess. I guess video game also has like a derogatory sense as like past a certain age, you still play video games, so it
Yeah.
feels like you're wasting time by playing a
Exactly.
video game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I love that that's being changed now, that it's being proven that like you
Sure.
can
Dude,
really
fuck-
make something out of playing video
Dude.
games.
Literally, fuck yourself if you're gonna tell me what I do is like not acceptable. You know what I mean? Like it's my time.
Yeah.
It's my time to do what I want to do. So why would I ever pay attention to how you should tell me to spend my time? At all.
Yeah.
Ever. I don't care what I'm doing. You know what I mean? If I'm lying under the bridge with a 40 in my hand, like I don't, even though I'm wrong and I should probably be doing something, just don't tell me to do something else with my time. Like that's just what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree with that. You shouldn't be telling anybody else what to do with their time.
Ever.
Limited time only.
And
No
there's
matter
limit.
how you define time, we're here for limited time only. That's it.
It's true.
Because like eventually time runs out.
And you die.
So all time is limited time. Maybe that's how we wrap up the
So what
talk on time. All time is
then
limited time.
what happens after we die?
What happens after we die? I thought you were going to tell me. And
So
then
wait,
I was
real
gonna
quick.
respond.
I don't think you ever said it. Do you believe in time? But do you believe in time as a concept? Like the way we tell time. Do you believe in it as a concept? Is just like that's just really what it is.
I feel like we've done the best we could to like fit this concept of time like to what our life should be.
I agree with that, but it's just something
Because
that
it
we
also has
can't-
to do with like sleep schedules and like when you wake up and getting your time in the sun.
It's
You
sort of
need
like the
that as a
concept of
human.
space, where like the human mind just can't wrap how actually big space is. Like we really can't wrap our minds around what time really is because it's just such a weird concept. It's just
Yeah.
so strange and so like basically mysterious that it's just impossible for our
Yeah.
brains to fully comprehend it. But what happens after we die?
I don't know. Last episode, we talked about a few episodes ago. We talked about cremation being the new wave. Do you think
Yeah.
there's any difference between like what happens to someone who gets buried because then their body still exists in a physical form versus someone who gets cremated?
No.
So you think whatever happens after you die, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter
no
if you're
matter how
cremated,
you're done away with.
You could be blown up by a grenade, or you could die in your bed at 96. You're gonna go to the same, whatever it is.
Mm.
We'll get into that, but I want to know.
So like, do you mean
Like
what
you-
happens
do you-
to your
like, do you-
physical
do you-
body? What happens to
No,
like your
I
spirit?
want to know if you hold a personal belief of what you think happens after we die. Like, so Ed Remender dies. Where do you go next? Where do you think that you go next, or hope that you go next? You know what I mean?
Well, first of all, with that conversation, you got to go into something even deeper. The fact that, like, a lot of people a new like idea these days is people talking about that they're a vessel.
I never heard this.
So like people will say that like you, who you are, is inside your body, is in here.
Correct.
Somewhere. And like what your physical being is a vessel that carries it. So you can like change your identity or like change your image, like change your public image at like the blink of an eye, because that's whatever you are inside changing. And this out here is just like the vessel that carries whatever you are inside. So that's like a new like progressive like idea that like some people have. I'm not saying it's like a common thing at all, but I've heard it. I've heard it like talked about. So what we're saying about what happens after you die, I don't think anything happens with like your physical body. I think whatever happens to that, like whether it's buried or like burned, however it's disposed of, your physical body just exists wherever it is. But like the essence of you, I feel like, and maybe this is just because I'm hopeful that it's not just like you die and then nothing, but I feel like you have to go on and exist in some form.
So
like,
there
it's not
is
just like
the thing
over.
Is if you died and you see black, there's an existence within that black. If you're cognizant of the fact that you're seeing, I see black, I see nothing, there's nothing here, you're awake in that. If you have the thought after you die that, wow, there's nothing, you still exist because you're thinking that there's nothing. So that's another thing going back to time. Like humans might not be able to just comprehend the fact that there's just like, you can't comprehend existence because trying to explain yourself existence, there's an existence in that. If you just see black and there's nothing going on, it's just a void. You still exist within that void. So you can't even comprehend just not being there. You're always gonna put it through a human lens where like you're gonna see whatever the next thing is, but you might not. It might just be a totally different element. Like it's completely, almost I guess paranormal. Some kind of energy that we just don't know of because it's just impossible to, it's impossible to come up with on your own. You just have to see it. The only way you're gonna know is to die. As far as my opinion on the matter goes, I think that when we die, this is kind of like a new theory I've had because my deja vu is so crazy. This is actually going to sound like You're going to sound
out there?
I'm going to sound pretty fucking out there.
You're going to Eddie Bravo us?
Yeah, like bad. So this is like a new idea that I kind of been having because my deja vu is so bad that I will see things 10 seconds before they happen, and then as they unfold, I'll point to what's about to happen next in my own head. If that makes any sense. You know what I mean? So like I'll look at that car and like now it's going to make a right turn. Mm-hmm. Now this lady's going to cross the street. Now she's going to open her umbrella. I see it all in my head before it happens. So what I think is after you die that I'm born again in 1996. Every time on a loop.
Really?
Every single time on a loop. And I made all the same decisions up until this point that led me to this exact moment where I already seen this. But the billionth, millionth, trillionth other time, I just made another decision down the way where I didn't end up in this room today. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I could live the same life up until I'm 13, then make a different decision. So it skews the timeline into a different Danny Gannett, a different Annie Bull. But there's so many. There's
a timeline where any bull never happens.
Exactly. No, because I exist. But
yeah, but I'm saying there's a timeline you weren't always referred to as any bull.
Oh yeah. So there's a timeline where I was 22, right? I was 22 and I made all the same decisions as I did on this timeline. But then I made another one, never even thought of any bull one time.
And you just became the owner of Modell's.
Exactly. And Modell's never shut down and I just owned it. Rochelle's, you mean? That's the name of it. But that's what I started. That's what I'm starting to believe that's because my deja vu is so realistic to me, and I can literally comprehend it and speak it into existence. Essentially, not really. That I think that when I die, say I get hit by a bus when I'm 34, and die, I'm going to be born on October 17th, 1996 at 6 a.m. And I'm going to live my life. And then where I died at 34 on that timeline, I didn't cross the street at the same time that time. So then it went off on my timeline went on a different tangent.
Yeah.
But there's just an infinite amount of timelines. You hear that all the time.
But then would you say that when you're born immediately and you're 0,
correct,
all the decisions that are made for you are made by other people. So in the first X amount of time in your life, is that timeline altered by the choices of other people?
No, there's just so many infinite timelines. They're infinite.
So let's say that happens, though, and you're 2 years old and your dad moves to Wisconsin. You didn't control that at all, but your timeline's now changed.
Yeah, because his timeline's changed. His timeline changed a different way. And I'm collateral damage because I'm his 2-year-old son. I have to go with my dad if he accepts a job out in Nebraska. But that just changes the day and he got a timeline. That's just a different thing that occurred in my life that didn't happen on this timeline. Like I said, it's going to sound like I'm fucking out there. I understand that.
Yeah.
But we also have this tough time.
But anything that anybody gives as an explanation should sound out there, because whether you give me that or you give me, well, I just think that it's a casket in the ground and your body stays there forever, nobody knows. So that answer is just as valid as somebody saying, well, you just lay there.
Yeah, but it also seems a little more realistic that you just lay there. You know what I mean? As opposed to me being born on October 17th, 1996, year after year after year, at the time, after all those same decisions are made. You know what I mean?
But you don't know what's realistic or not about, like, afterlife. We only know what's realistic about current life.
I'm just saying, don't it seem a little more likely that when you die, there is just a blackness, as opposed to me being born in 1996 again? I'm not saying that either one's right or either one's wrong. I'm just saying it's probably more believable that there's nothing
more
compared
believable
to some crazy
and more
shit.
likely. More likely is.
But what does that mean for my deja vu? That there's something otherworldly going on. Like there's something that's not of this earth that we just don't know about that's controlling that.
Have you ever had a deja vu where, like, you catch yourself in it and you can almost, like, predict the next thing?
Ladies and gentlemen.
No, deja vu. What I'm thinking of deja vu is when
why we had to lay out the pot.
Something happens and you remember it and you remember seeing it before. But what I'm saying is when you're in the middle of the deja vu.
That's what I was saying. I can see it happen. That black car's gonna make a right.
and then you know, like, the next, like the very next thing is gonna happen.
But mine happens for like I said. Then the lady's gonna cross the street. Now she's gonna open an umbrella. That dude's about to light a cigarette. I know it's about to happen, and I look to where it's about to happen, and then it happens. Then I look to where that's about to happen, and then it happens. And I already know, like, oh wow, he's about to light that cigarette.
Wait, yo, fire idea for a TV show like that.
Yeah.
That's so any bull. You as a psychic.
I fucking have the fucking thing go back in my eye.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, it's the thing about what happens after we die is just, it's so hard to comprehend because you only have to die to experience it and know it really happens. I mean, everyone wants to find comfort in something. Like, I'm gonna see my grandpop again. You know what I mean? Everybody wants that and everybody feels that, but it's more of like a comfort thing. Of course you want to go to heaven and eat a cheeseburger every day and, you know, get your feet rubbed. You know, like, that's just like that's heaven. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sounds great, but that's really probably not what's going on. There's something different going on. Like space, like what is space? That's a whole topic for another day, but that it's all created. It all started somewhere with something. It doesn't just exist for no reason. There was a creation at some point, and we're just part of that creation.
All right, now we're going, like, our real serious takes on it. Now just give me something, like, make it up, that could happen when you die, just like the most outrageous thing you can think of. That could happen. Because we don't know. Anything could happen.
I think the craziest thing is to be reincarnated.
As something else?
As something else, or someone else. There was a story a couple years ago.
What if for real, like, you thought it was this deep shit, and literally you die, and all of a sudden you're just, like, in a room with everyone else who's ever died, and it's just a lit party forever after that. Forever and ever.
That's at the end of this is end. This is the end, right? That's the same concept. That would be unreal. That would be unreal, actually. Like, that's probably the ideal situation that there's just a lifelong party going on where you can always just talk to anybody who ever lived and died.
Never have to go to sleep.
No.
You just got energy.
You just exist.
Energy.
Yeah.
Nobody ever says that in like when someone says, if you had one superpower, what would you pick? That's a good one. Endless energy. The ability to never have to sleep. Like to just go.
Think about what you can accomplish.
Yeah,
if you just
you
never
had
had the
energy.
desire to sleep, your body never needed it, and you just didn't do that. You didn't lay in bed. You know what I mean? You just didn't do that.
Yeah.
Unless you were like watching a movie.
Then you could accomplish anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
You basically have double the life of everybody else.
If you had endless energy, you could.
Because what do we sleep for? 9 hours a night, 8 hours a night if you're lucky. You might not be able to do that, but
yeah.
If you have that
but
added to your day,
even people who can't sleep from the hours of like 2 a.m. to 8, they're laying there. They're not like out doing things.
No, because your body needs it. Your body needs rest. At the end of the day, you break down. That's a good one. Endless energy. That is like a good. It's a boring superpower for like everybody else because you're not gonna be like flying through the air and tripping everybody out. But yeah, endless energy is really a good one.
Yeah, makes me think of the Energizer Bunny. Like if you just had one of those like implanted in your
fucking
back,
just banging a drum all day. You get on my fucking nerves if you were doing that all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want that. Yeah, that's weird. I don't want to die. No one wants to die.
I'm so glad that we're not like close to the age where you got to think about it. But you just said something about getting hit by a bus at 34. Not trying to have that happen.
Dude, you can die at any time, and the older you get, the more you just realize that like you can just die. I can get mugged and it can go wrong, totally out of my control, and I can end up dead. And it can happen to anybody. You know what I mean? It can happen to anybody. Why is it? It happens to people every day. Why wouldn't it be you? It's just like hitting the lottery. It happens to people every day. Why wouldn't it be you?
That's one of the when you start like understanding.
That's just a lottery you just don't want to hit.
Another, I know we talked about the quote earlier, like the events that happen within time. Another one that I can think of is like something about your perspective on things changes when you realize that everything that you're sitting here with that was created is created by somebody who was no different than you.
Yeah.
Right? But that's like a touchy topic for me because like you just said, you can apply it to negative things too. The same way you can say, well, if Steve Jobs created this empire of Apple, like why can't I? He was born a human just like me. But the same way you can look at someone who got hit by a bus and say like that could legitimately be me too.
Yeah.
It can be applied to positive things and be applied to negative
things.
Sure,
it could definitely be applied to
anything
positive
can happen to anyone.
Yeah. And everyone at the end of the day is capable. This is like a corny cliche thing, but everyone's capable of greatness. You know what I mean? Everyone is capable of it unless you're born with some kind of development issue or a disability. Everyone is capable of greatness.
Yeah.
Everyone withholds it in them. It's just a matter if you can tap into it or not.
Like you said, it's like corny cliche. It's like most people will hear that and like not even really believe in it. But you got to like actually think about it on like a deeper level and understand like, no, like it's legitimate. You are capable of anything.
In the past 2 years, I would actually say it's actually like some people never stumble upon this. Like you just said, like some people just never think about it like that. But in the past 2 years or so, I would say I've really taken a look at time and I've put, that the fact that you are going to die someday in the perspective so much that why would I waste my time not doing something I think is great? No, I should be doing something that I think is fucking unreal. You know what I mean? I shouldn't be doing anything that's just all right. I should be doing something that I think is unbelievable. Because that's just, why else would I exist? There's no reason to. There's no purpose other than that. If you just live a boring, shitty life, you're going to end up a boring, shitty person who's cynical with the world. And that's just what's going to happen. I'd rather not take that route. Know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel you, bro. Mind equals blown.
Dropping that knowledge on you. Knowledge bomb.
All right. I think we're done with the death topic.
Yeah, I think that's enough death for today.
Yeah, I don't want to be talking about death. This isn't the sad podcast. It's the deep podcast.
So with another great uplifting topic, let's get into our flaws.
No, we are gonna finish this one on not a low note. What I would say, the reason that I even like wanted to do this topic about just we're gonna go on individual monologues about our own flaws. things, habits, traits that we do or that we have that we wish we didn't do. But the reason that I even bring it up is because the thing about the whole brand of No Limit is just being able to accept like your extreme highs and also being able to accept your extreme lows. No limit either way. Like a lot of people, when they think of the phrase like no limit, it's like, oh, like endless possibility, like no limitations. You can go up as high as far as you want. But when I think of it, it's like being able to accept the highest of yourself and also accept the lowest of yourself. So that's kind of what I want to incorporate into the brand and the podcast as a whole. So that's why we're just going to go on a little rant monologue right now just about like our own flaws, just basically to say like it's cool to have them. Like everybody's going to have them, and you're going to be good either way.
And the other thing about having your flaws is that you should not see them. It's hard not to see them as a flaw and not an area for opportunity. You know, my flaws are an area that of my life that I have, seeked out. I know what they are, and I have to find a way to fix it or overcome it. Yeah. You know what I mean? I shouldn't just accept my flaws for what they are. As hard as it is and how long it takes, you should always just try to work on it. It's important to identify your flaws and accept them and just acknowledge them. You know what I mean? You should never bullshit yourself just to think that you're a great person, because you're not, and no one is. So I agree with that. The no limit, there's just no limit. I have no limits. I'm going to have great times. I'm going to have bad times. And there's going to be times in between where there's no limit for either one.
Right.
But I'll get into mine right now.
Danny's going to go first. His monologue.
Hard
camera on any bowl.
My name is Danny, and I have anger issues. I have
I'm just going to be quiet over here the whole time.
I have serious... I guess not serious because I'm not actually violent. But I really get very worked up and animated when I'm angry. Like if you were to do something that makes me angry, and it also doesn't have to be a very little thing. If you give me a reason to be angry, I'm gonna be 10 times more amplified than you ever were. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna let it go. I'm gonna scream in your face. I'm gonna call you a fucking idiot and a moron, and I'm just gonna snap out if it happens. That's just how, for whatever reason, I just have that in my nature to just blow up. If something makes me angry, I just have a complete blow up and freak out. I try pretty hard, I would say, to fight it, because I do acknowledge it. But at the end of the day, it sometimes it just comes out when you least expect it, or it just creeps up on you, or there was 10 fucking things that you... Like, I looked past 10 other things that day, and that 11th thing just got me bad. And then I ended up overreacting, you know what I mean? So it's definitely a flaw of mine, just being angry and just trying to... Like, I always constantly try to calm myself down when I don't need it, or... just practice like moving slower and not like rushing around to do things, and just being more calm.
Imagine I took the glasses off and just stared a hole in you.
Yeah, you actually need them. Those allergies. Yeah. But it's definitely something I need to work on, and definitely something I need to be better at. But it's important, like I said, that I acknowledged it, and I do tell people in my life like that are close to me that I'll apologize after, and I definitely don't mean it. It just kind of really happens in the moment. There's definitely, everybody has things they shouldn't have said. There's probably too many things I shouldn't have said to even count or remember. If I ever said anything mean to you or wrong to you, I got no hate. I love everybody. I really do. Like, that's another thing, is I try to just be positive at all times. It's only going to benefit me to just be positive at all times. If I see somebody doing something great, I'm going to tell them they're doing something great. If I see someone having a bad day, like we talked about, like I used to work at Modell's, so I was the manager or whatever. So like if one of my associates came in having a bad day, like I would acknowledge it, and I would try to make their day better. It makes me feel better if I do that. It makes me feel happy if I can at least make a compliment to somebody, or just tell them, hey, you're doing great. And then that kind of helps me deal with my own anger, because when someone does something shitty to me, I'm ready to just fly off the handle, especially in my car. My car is where I got it really bad. But I'm also not a violent person. So I'm not the type of person who's going to assault you, but I'm going to verbally assault you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I just don't like it, because it's just not, it's not nice. You know what I mean? It's not how you should conduct yourself. You should conduct yourself as a nice, presentable person at all times, and just be courteous and kind to people.
Any smaller things, like just like that you do, like when you wake up, you wish you did something that you don't do, like.
I'd probably have to think about it. Like maybe if you give another one, we start talking about it, it might come to me. I'm sure I got a million.
Mine's gonna be a little different than yours. You talked about one specific thing that you don't like strongly. Mine's just gonna be like some like smaller things. So I'll go. I would say right here, that's a flaw of mine. Tobacco, smoking weed is not a problem for me. Like, I don't care. Anybody who does it, like, you do you. If you don't, you don't, whatever.
Real quick, before you go into that, I actually, now that you say that, weed to me is a flaw in my eyes.
Is a flaw, you think? I don't think it is. But tobacco, I think, is, because it does damage to, like, your lungs and stuff. And, like, you can actually see in examples of other people, like, things that it's done, giving them cancer, even cancer of, like, the jaw, like, and having a messed up face. I would hate for something to happen to my face because of that. I've been trying to wean myself off for a while, but, like, I can't really kick the habit. I'm getting better at it. Over quarantine, I was smoking so much tobacco, like 4 Dutches a day, more than a pack a day.
Yeah.
Like it was bad. Now I barely even buy them anymore. Just like every once in a while. The only reason I even have one today is just because I was like, I just felt like getting one. But like it was a way worse habit before. That's something small that I don't like. Another thing I don't like is that my ability to like make my mind quiet has just absolutely dissipated. I used to meditate every day, and it started off where it was difficult for me to get to like 5 minutes of like empty mind. Mm-hmm. But eventually I got okay at doing that. And then it was easy to go 5 minutes, and it was hard to go 10 minutes. But then it was easy to go 10 minutes, and it was hard to go 15 minutes. And I was staying consistent with it and doing it every day. And now I recently tried to do it again, and I can't like empty my mind for 30 seconds without getting onto a tangent.
Really?
And I think that in the past like year or two, my like usage of like technology has just gone like through the roof on like a per day basis. Yeah. To do, honestly, some of it's like for good purposes, like to do this, like there's a lot that goes into it, but like audio editing and like just like texting in a group chat and like putting up content, shit like that. I'm looking at things more and doing more different things throughout the day, so my attention is more spread out. So when it comes time to just like blank out my mind or solely focus on one thing, I can't do that anymore, and I don't like that. So I definitely have to get better at that. Another one that I would say is, it's kind of like what yours is.
Well, going back to that real quick, that's a flaw of mine that I've actually, I think for the most part, really began to get on a path where I've started to fix that, which is my anxiety. I think that in the past year or so, in 2 years, I've always had pretty, not crippling anxiety or like really seriously unreal anxiety, but I've had pretty bad anxiety, and I think everyone kind of goes through it during adolescence in their younger years, just trying to figure out shit and whatever. But I've really kind of identified mine and changed it with the way I've changed my view on life. I've kind of been able to overcome my anxiety more. Like when I see things, like I just don't feel as anxious about that anymore, because I see life for what it is in my eyes more clearer.
I actually have a weird way of dealing with that, because I get most anxious just about like content and stuff that I post or that we post, like always forever thinking that like it could be the most perfect product ever, but I'm gonna think like that's horrible.
And I'm the opposite. I have no anxiety about putting content out.
I literally will like overthink something for hours and hours and hours, and my weird way of dealing with it is like looking at someone else's content who's like not as good.
You know what you should do?
Because then I just look at it and I'm like, well, it's better than that, and they're still putting it out.
You're not putting anything out. You're not putting anything out of like a poor quality necessarily, and you're not putting anything out that's any type of hate or derogatory towards anybody. So what you should do is just practice, like, when you think about putting something out, just like set it and forget it. Just do it and then drop your phone for like 20 minutes and go in the yard and just sit there.
I normally do that.
You know what I mean? Just sit and just don't even think about it. Smoke a blunt or something. You know what I mean? Just relax and just not even have your phone near you, because that if you have the thought of putting it up, you want to put it up. You know what I mean? You don't think about like, oh, I should put this up, and then if you don't want to, you only do it because you want to. But then you say to yourself, I should put this up, because you're anxious about putting it up.
Yeah. And my final one is that sort of like yours with the anger, but mine's more specific. If I'm arguing with somebody, I have to not only get the last word, but my last word has to be like one level up from the last thing the other person said. Like, I gotta go harder with my insult or what I'm about to say than you just went with what you said, and I want to like leave you with that. Like, I want to like put that stamp on the argument and just like dagger and leave it at that.
Moron,
and then
bitch,
what happens is like the other person always wants to get the last word, because everybody in an argument wants to get the last word.
Yeah, of course.
But me, it's that extra element of like my last word has to hit harder than everything that's been said so far. So what happens is I hit something hard, and then that other person wants the last word, so they respond not necessarily more strong than I came,
but they come at you.
But then the new highest level has been set by my previous comments, so I need to hit the last word and go higher than I just went with the last insult or like the last thing that I said. So whenever I'm in an argument and like the other person that I argue with is persistent in arguing back, I get to levels that are just like bad.
What's bad
I say
about
things that are bad.
What's bad
and
about that
I need
is
to stop that.
That's
I
how you
need
keep
to.
the argument going. Because if you up the octane on that last thing and say something bad, and then you do it again to an even higher degree, the argument's not always just, most of the time, I mean, I don't know all the arguments you ever had, but I can guarantee that most of the time they don't end there. Unless you say something that's so serious that it's like, I can't even respond to that.
Yeah.
But if you just say something and then go higher again, that's not going to end the argument. You're not ending the argument. You're just starting another one.
That has happened. It has gotten to the point where the other person is like, that's just too much. I can't.
Sure. I
can't even give you a retort.
That happens.
Didn't want to hear from me.
Yeah, mine's is more of I do that, but out of the gate. If I'm having if someone's seriously, getting me mad and has a problem with me, out of the chute, I'm at the highest level I could be. It's like 0 to 100. That's what I hate. Because then I start to embarrass myself and I just look like an asshole. You know what I mean? At least that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. 100 ain't enough though.
No limit.
100 is not enough.
I'm flooring it out of the gate. Pedal to the metal. My foot's on the fucking floor. Yeah, it sucks. I wish I wasn't like that, but we try to work these things out. That's why there are flaws, and we try to identify them. As for like little things like smoking weed, I think smoking weed's a flaw because of how much I do it. I've kind of stopped in the past, I would say like over the past 3 weeks. Like, it's not even that long of a time. I feel like that's just a thing where like, as much.
You feel like that's a flaw, but there's so many people that do it and feel like it's a flaw, and then there's also so many people that do it and feel like it's just like they've gotten over that. Same thing that you just said about the anxiety of like posts and shit. How you don't feel that. As far as like any type of feeling some type of way about smoking, I've gotten over that, and other people have.
So like someone like Snoop Dogg, right? Smokes from the time he gets up to the time he goes to sleep, but he's still always
for the cameras.
Dude, I think he actually pays somebody to roll him blunts like throughout the day just so he doesn't have to even do that. He spends so much time smoking that he can't even be bothered with the rolling aspect of it anymore. He has to literally pay somebody a salaried job to just roll his weed. So someone like that who smokes all day long from the time they wake up to the time they go to sleep, but in between he's making content, he's appearing on this show, he's working on music. So he's able to smoke weed, and it's not a flaw for him because he's able to still succeed in life while doing it. But me smoking and then eating a bag of chips and watching a movie, it's not doing nothing good for me. You know what I mean? It's really just I'm getting high for the sake of getting high. Yeah. And getting high, like that's the only reason I'm doing it. It's just to feel high. And that I feel like is a flaw. I'm constantly looking to be high.
Yeah, but you got to confuse the heart in the morning, blunt and coffee.
Yeah, see, I had to cut that out. I can't be confusing the heart every day. Now I'm a high blood pressure because I have these anger issues. That's a true story. I got fucking high blood pressure.
He's actually about to explode any minute.
What if I really did? I just fucking blew up.
Combust it.
That would be a great episode. Holy shit. That'd be unreal. But yeah, I don't know. I just think weed, like, for me, is a flaw. I'm not saying, like, for anybody else or even you, it's a flaw. It's just the fact that, like, for myself, I feel like it is. That's definitely a small thing. Another small flaw in myself that's not that serious, a little more lighthearted, is I definitely don't cook enough for myself. I usually like to, I can cook, but it's just harder, too. I like to just order out or something or go somewhere to get something to eat. I don't feel like actually going through the effort of making my own meal, unless it's going to be shitty quality. If you just make like ramen noodles, then that's not really cooking. That's just basically like getting fast food. We looking up?
No, we're talking about some sad shit, and they gave like the 100 ain't enough talk, and I got some good shit right here that we're gonna end the podcast on. So let me know.
I'm wrong. I'm ready.
Oh, you ready to go? No more flaws.
Nah, no more flaws.
There's nothing. Actually, though,
I wanted to talk about my biggest.
Actually,
flaw.
though, back to the no limit, but there's nothing else bad about me. Literally, everything else is great. Like, seriously.
What about that fit?
You can't fuck with me on any other level. Everything else I said, like, yeah, that's the bad shit about me, but like, other than that, you're not fucking with me. I'm at the fucking peak.
That's your mindset.
Other than those couple things that I just said.
That should be your mindset, though.
So let me just leave everybody with a little fucking no limit bar on the way out, because we ain't going out of here on a sad note. We just talked about like 3 kind of down topics, and I like it because we're all about the variety, but we're leaving the people on a good note. So I just want to let you guys know. 100 ain't enough when it comes to the number of blunts I could puff for my lungs got a cough. 100 ain't enough when it comes to the number of ups I could push for I run out of the clock. Mind, body, soul got the whole thing on lock. Mind, body, grow, it get thick like the plot. 100 ain't enough for the reps on your shot. Get your numbers up before you get forgot.
Hey, that was actually pretty hot. I need you to edit a beat on that